Jayson Tatum kind of clapping back at Brandon Jennings, right? Because Brandon Jennings decided that he wanted smoke and started talking some shit about Tatum, basically calling Tatum soft, saying that Tatum plays in a soft way.
While I'm on my rant, hey, Jayson Tatum's trainer. Yo,
Jayson Tatum.
He had an issue with me saying that Jayson Tatum was soft, one of the softest Boston Celtics superstars ever.
Mr. Big Time.
Oh shit!
Since you're his trainer, make sure he gets Finals MVP this year.
Ooh.
And I heard you wrote a book talking about like stop the bullshit. I'm gonna write part 2 if he don't get it.
If he do,
if he don't,
but if he do,
I mean, if he do, he's.
I mean, it's very likely that he's going to win Finals MVP.
Okay,
if they're in the finals, they're going to win. He's going to win finals.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Because the Finals MVP last year, his stats was...
How if they lose to the Lakers, could he win Finals MVP?
I mean, that's
it's your birthday. It's your birthday. It's your birthday.
That's not even guaranteed. But I'm just saying, though, you know.
Mr. B, crash out
since
time.
his trainer has a lot to say, like, you know, is your client the top 5 Boston Celtics player ever?
Now, I don't know how Brandon Jennings can be out here in the year 2025 calling people soft when he's like charming. You know what I mean? I watched that guy fold a couple of times during his career. Multiple times. Never wanted smoke putting behind the mic with a couple of boys around him. He's about that life. I don't like the notion of calling a player soft in the first place. And I'll get into that in a moment. Tatum then decided, and Tatum's not the only one that's clapped back. Drew Hanlon clapped back. Tatum's now posted like a 12-slide post onto Instagram, just showing some of his highlights, some physicality, just him dressed nice, and other slides, him sitting on the bench with the caption "softest Celtic ever," with, you know, the capital, lower capital, capital, lowercase, capital, lowercase. Basically being like, you're talking shit. Billy, how did you feel when you saw Brandon Jennings' comments?
I mean, these grifters are going to grift. I know these washed up players have to say outrageous things to get attention. And Gilbert Arenas is brilliant because what he's done is surrounded himself with people that are dumber and have worse takes than him. So he looks intelligent by default. It is absolutely ridiculous that Tatum has such like engagement rage online that you could just mention Tatum's name and get free publicity, free attention. And that's all this is. But honestly, he swung at the wrong guy because this feels like this year's the energy's about to shift moment. When Jaylen Brown tweeted that and everything kind of flipped a couple years ago, this feels like it's going to be that for Tatum because now he's coming for people's heads. Like he's responding to people calling him out. And that's something we haven't seen before.
He's a champion now. He's a 3-time All-NBA first team, multiple year All-Star NBA champion. I don't know what more you can say to this guy where he doesn't have an answer for you. And that to me is the biggest change now, coming in from like even last season to this season. When he bites back, he's biting back from a position of strength. Like, let me see your resume. Let me see what you did. Do you have the ability to talk down to me the way you're trying to do? And I've put this on Twitter for years at this point. It used to be when the Knicks were bad, the saying was always Knicks for clicks, right? If you talked about the Knicks, you were going to get people who were going to click. Now it's Tatum for trending. Talk some absolute garbage about Jayson Tatum that has no factual basis, that has no point whatsoever, and post a clip of it and it's going to go trending because everybody's going to respond. Either people are going to love to hate him because he plays for the Celtics, or they're going to be defending him, which I'm bad for because, again, he plays for the Celtics. I just think that when it comes to somebody like Tatum, he shouldn't be needing to post this stuff to defend himself because the conversation that he's soft should have stopped. It should have stopped when the Celtics won the chip. It should have stopped when they made the NBA Finals. It should have stopped when he was an All-NBA first-team selection, first, second, or third time, supermax contract guy. And the Celtics are still arguably, and in my opinion, the best team in the NBA right now. Where is the softness?
It's because he's not controversial. He's not problematic. And he's a very likable guy. You'll see him in all these commercials, all these endorsements, whether it be Subway, whether it be Versace, whether it be Gucci, whatever it is. He has that kind of marketability that, let's face it, that guys like Ja Morant blew, Zion blew. Ant's getting there with some of his antics. Ant's still the lover. You know, he's still beloved right now, but that flips on you quick. Ask Ja Morant.
Yeah, and I think with Ant, it's just the inability to hold a press conference without cussing. And I'm terrible for that. I cuss naturally, and I'm not going to hide that as part of who I am. But at the same time, Tatum carries himself in such a way that you feel comfortable. You'd feel comfortable paying him to represent your brand because he's following the LeBron playbook, right? Be a good family man, play your game, win at a high level, and keep your family life and business completely separated. Biggie said that in 10 Commandments. And I think JT is really sticking to that. And that breeds jealousy. Like when you start getting that back and like outside of the Supermax contract that he's got, outside of all the other things that he's doing, when you start bringing in that bag through endorsements and that extra income, which can sometimes be almost as much as what your actual NBA earnings are, people are going to hate. They're going to hate when you win because they didn't win. They're going to hate when you lose because they don't want to see you win. And they're going to hate when you're bringing in cash that they wish they could have brought in during their career. Gilbert Arenas was a good player. Brandon Jennings was okay. Neither of them reached Tatum's level, in my opinion. Not once, not for a single season, maybe for a stretch. They didn't earn what he earned. They didn't have the marketability. So now it's very easy to hate on the guy because he's doing something you didn't do. And I'm just so against it. And this soft narrative is a load of bullshit. Like, what are we talking about? Is this the UFC? Are we testing people's jaws on a game-to-game basis? Why do you need to be this? I don't even know what you're asking for. This super tough, like physical. It's just not necessary. Not in the modern game as well. Like, it's a physical game, and Tatum is one of the more physical guys. It pisses me off, dude.
Well, yeah, one thing, it's not the 90s, so I don't know why you need a fight resume. But the other thing is when you have a guy like Tatum who's finishing 80% at the rim this season, that's like almost 7% higher than his average for the last few years. Calling that soft when he is taking it to the basket, he is scoring over guys, he is overpowering, especially in the post. It feels like a little bit of a Celtics tax because there was another guy that was a family guy that was, very wholesome, very good with endorsements, and we've never heard him called soft once, and it's Steph Curry.
But he plays for the Warriors. He plays, again, it's the Celtics. There's this weird mentality that if you play for Boston, you need to be a very specific type of gritty player. It's why they loved Marcus Smart, despite the fact that he made ridiculous decisions a lot of the time. And I loved Marcus Smart too. But there's this weird mentality that if you play in Boston, you need to be an Isaiah Stewart type guy, just physical, strong, grizzly, a little bit scary. And every team needs that type of player. You need at least one or two of them. The Celtics are figuring it out with Jaylen Brown kind of being that guy for them right now. Just, there's going to be a fight. You expect Jaylen Brown to be the first one in someone's face. Every team needs at least one guy like that. But you also need a guy like Tatum, elite skill set, silky with the way he does things. When you go back through the years during these physical era, Pistol Pete Maravich, he was silky smooth. He wasn't physical. He was successful at that level. Larry Bird wasn't the most physically dominant guy, silky smooth with it. No one questioned that toughness. You get Tatum in here that's silky smooth with it. He's soft. He's not tough enough to play in this league. He's not physical enough to dominate. Well, fucking dominates every time. The narrative itself within the Celtics fan base has kind of vanished. It's evaporated. Nobody questions him within the confines of Celtics Nation, if you want to call it that. Celtics fandom. I don't care what name you want to give it. It's the exterior now. It's the ESPNs of the world, the Fox Sports of the world, the Gilbert Arenas show. You don't hear Draymond Green questioning Tatum. Draymond Green shows building Tatum up, telling you he's next. To me, he's more in line to replace LeBron as the American face of the NBA than Ant right now. He's next up. But then you have these other shows like, I'm glad that Tatum clapped back, and I'm glad that Gilbert Arenas clapped back. And did you see that Brandon Jennings, somebody called out Brandon Jennings on the post that they posted on Twitter? Like, you're lucky Tatum doesn't want to throw hands over this. And Brandon Jennings is like, yeah, well, I'm here. Like, if he wants to throw hands, it is what it is. I'm like, dude, Tatum would slap you into another dimension. What is he, like 5'8", 5'9", 5'10"? He's a little guy.
Yeah, he was a small, undersized point guard, but
I'm looking down at Brandon Jennings if we're standing next to each other, and I'm 6'3", so like Tatum, I've stood next to Tatum. I've been in the same hallway as Tatum during a press conference. And I weren't even at that dude's shoulder. Maybe at his shoulder. That dude's big. You're telling me a 5'8" guy, just so much Napoleon syndrome going on right now, bro.
And he's already backtracking. Now that Tatum clapped back, he said something stupid like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted to see. See you in May and June. So it's like, who do you think you are? Like, you really just did this for attention. You got your 5 minutes of attention, and now you're going to take it all back? No, we're going to remember this.
It's the Shaq playbook, right? Call a guy out when they bite back. This is what I wanted. Like, you didn't know it, but I was trying to bring this out of you. No, you were talking shit. Someone bit back, and now you don't really want that smoke. And it's different with Shaq. Shaq's a big dude. I wouldn't want to upset Shaq in the slightest. Leave that to Dwight Howard. But it is true. Like, you call a guy out, they clap back. We've all been there. We've all either been the guy that got spoke about and questioned it, or been the guy that's made a comment and then been questioned about it. Everyone's been on one side of that coin during high school, during college. It doesn't matter when. It's just Tatum has a resume now where if you say something out of pocket, he can call you out on it from a position of strength. And if he gets a second championship in this year or next, I don't think anyone has a right to start questioning his toughness. Question the way he plays on a game-to-game basis. If he has a bad year, question that. Like, nobody's above criticism. This is the NBA. And obviously, people tune into people talking about the NBA to hear the praise as well as the critique. So no one's above that. But there definitely comes a point where these narratives that are definitely false and have been proven to be false have to stop, because it's disingenuous content, and I'm just not about that life.
And it ruins the game, because honestly, if we're not even going to get into the NBA ratings debate, but just the fact that they have to go to these kind of like ways to get attention just shows everything that's wrong with the way the NBA is marketed to people right now.
Yeah. And that's another issue too. Like, if you look at ESPN, it's the debate shows. It's the, he said this and who's better between LeBron James and no one gives a shit. I had this argument on Twitter yesterday. I'd said to somebody, like, I want to consume intelligent basketball content. I don't want to consume barbershop talk content. If I do, I know I've toyed with the idea of focusing on Instagram more than Twitter over the years. But if I wanted that content, there's plenty of it on Instagram of smaller creators that are trying to make their way, that are following that Stephen A. Smith playbook of who's top 5, who's the best point guard. I don't give a shit about none of that. I want to know play schemes. I want to know which guards have took the biggest leap in points per possession over the last, you know what I mean? I want decent stuff, and everyone to their own, but I just feel like there's too much focus on the negativity and not enough focus on the positivity.
And sadly, that's what ESPN wants to brand itself as. Inside the NBA is even worse. Unfortunately, as entertaining as that show is, it thrives on the negativity.
It's not just them. Fox Sports with Skip, it was the same thing. Fox Sports with whoever's next, it's going to be the same thing. Run It Back, FanDuel's Run It Back with Lou Will and Chandler Parsons. It's exactly the same thing. They're at least they give you a bit of a take, but it's always like they lean on the side of negativity. You have to really find and like drill down to find good basketball content, and that to me is part of the problem. It's being sold in a negative light, so it's being consumed in a negative light. Whereas you need to try and sell it positively. It's frustrating, and Tatum just seems to be a guy whose name is a big part of that negative sales pitch, and that's not fair. LeBron never had to go through that. LeBron was always part of the positive sale pitch.
Yeah, it's why the NBA has such a hard time making stars, is because we love tearing them down.
Yeah. And like I say, no one's above criticism, but there's a difference between criticizing what you saw on the floor and criticizing someone for being a professional when that's what you're asking them to be. Like, make your mind up what you want. You know what I'm saying? So I think we'll move on. We've said what we needed to say. Team Tatum all the way, by the way.